welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be talking about different export format you should use in SketchUp to go to 3ds Max. Obviously I do have some people asking me questions on should you really use FBX, should you really use OBJ, should you really do that, should you really do this. I'm going to be clarifying this for you guys. I have explained it in my previous video, export to 3ds Max, but I'm going to clarify a bit more. I got some notes written on my phone, so please, if you don't mind me reading of the script and explaining, so this helped me really, like maybe keeping repeating or something. Okay, anyway, so to go from SketchUp, export then to the Max, it's pretty simple. I've explained in my previous video, but what really changes is that the geometry quality, materials, UVs, smoothing, and scene cleanup time. Now, the cleanup time is usually based on real cost, but I'm going to be explaining down format by format. So starting with the most modern one, like I explained, FBX file. Obviously, FBX file is the most commonly used file, and it works perfectly for 3ds Max, from SketchUp to 3ds Max. I'll explain the pros and cons of each export files. So the pros of FBX is it transfers geometry reliably, it preserves object hierarchy, it supports materials and textures, works well with larger scenes, and it is designed for modern pipelines. What for cons is SketchUp FBX exporter can create messy smoothing, so basically exporting from SketchUp to 3ds Max, when it's come to smoothing, maybe parametric or curve, it might not be perfect. Obviously SketchUp is not designed for that, but I might be talking more about that in the future in 3ds Max. That's the first con. The second con is materials often used. They often need adjustment in 3ds Max. Yes, you can preserve the scale, you can preserve this textures, you can preserve the shape and everything, but it's just some adjustment you need to do with 3ds Max. Let's say, like I mentioned before, the curve is not accurate in SketchUp, so you might have to do some adjustment in 3ds Max to do some like turbo smoothing or other stuff, but I'll explain more that in a bit or in the future. That's the second part. The third part is UVs may not always be perfect for complex models. So in 3ds Max, when you import the FBX files you did in SketchUp, objects usually come in groups correctly. So make sure you do groups first in SketchUp in order to export it in 3ds Max, as I explain in my videos. And materials there, or often they need relinking or conversion. So I believe if you use Corona render, you can use, like, you have an item like Corona converter, something like that. It should change from FBX to kind of like 3ds Max file Corona converter, something like that. So that will be amazing spot to do. And smoothing groups may require cleanup. So the best use case FBX file in 3ds Max is if you're using FBX file, you want to have balanced modern workflow, and you're working on large architectural scenes and you plan on rebuild materials anyway, if you're using FBX. Okay, so FBX is usually my default choice, and I will always stick to FBX. This is my opinion, but where I want flexibility, I'll just stick to FBX. Okay, the second thing now, if well, the second export file I'm talking about is OBJ. So obviously OBJ is most common in SketchUp, and OBJ is an older, simpler, and very predictable export file. Now the pros of OBJ is the very clean geometry, reliable UV transfer, no weird scaling issues, and easy to troubleshoot. That's for OBJ. But the cons of OBJ is no view scene hierarchy, materials come as basic MTL files, and no animation, no cameras, no lighting, etc. So that's the cons of OBJ. In 3ds Max, when you export OBJ file to 3ds Max, it's imports as raw mesh, minimal structure, materials that usually need to be rebuilt. And that's the sad part, obviously. But the best use case, if you want to use OBJ in 3ds Max, you only care about geometry and UVs. That's it. No materials, no nothing. You're creating gaming assets or props. Or if you want maximum control inside 3ds Max, you can see that I did not mention materials or something or rendering for OBJ. OBJ is great when you want clean meshes, but don't care about automation. I don't mean automation like AI or something, but just like if you care about productivity and your higher workflow, then stick to OBJ. But if you really want good quality, stick to FBX. Okay. Now, third one is 3ds. Okay. Not 3ds Max, just 3ds or 3ds file. So that's your legacy format. 3ds format is old, very old. So the pro of using 3ds file is supported almost anywhere, and it's lightweight files. That's it. But there are a lot of cons to 3ds file. Number one con, polygon limit per object, no proper UV support for complex meshes, broken smoothing, materials almost never survive, outdated data structure. So it is actually worse than OBJ. So please stay away from 3ds. So please don't choose 3ds. In 3ds Max, if you if you export SketchUp to 3ds Max using 3ds file, you will often see split meshes, missing materials, and shading artifacts. Obviously, that is not the best case scenario. So, like I said again, please avoid 3ds. It's headache. You don't want to mess around with all these 3D materials, all that stuff. You don't want to cry out loud you're missing a deadline or something, or you want to have a perfect work for a client. Stay away from 3ds file, okay? Not 3ds Max. Don't misconstrue my word. 3ds Max and 3ds file. So stay away from 3ds file when you export to SketchUp. Hope this makes sense. Now, the reason why you want to SketchUp, the reason why you want to export SketchUp to 3ds Max is pros. Number one, fastest workflow. Number two, preserve groups and merge components. Number three, material usually transfer better than OBJ. So that's FBX. Actually, not FBX, that's actually SKP file. So you can see SketchUp file, SKP. So I'm talking about SKP file right now. So that's third pros. Number four, pro, no export step needed. So you can just save SketchUp file, SKP, and that's it. But The cons of SKP file, is it can generate very heavy geometry. Number 2, triangulation can be very messy. Number 3, requires cleanup for rendering, so you don't want any missing meshes or missing shapes in the rendering. I know it's very painful, I've been there. Number 4, how it depends heavily on how clean the SketchUp model is. If you have clean SketchUp model, then it makes it easier for 3ds Max to be exported to. If not, you're going to have a hard time to model 3ds Max, edit it, and render it. I hope this makes sense, so make sure that's for SKP file. Now, in 3ds Max, when you do export SKP file into 3ds Max, or import into 3ds Max, you will need to collapse modifiers, fix smoothing groups, optimize geometry, and convert materials. So like I said again, you go to Corona, or if you have V-Ray. So I use Corona personally. So I go Corona, you can see that symbol, Corona converter in 3ds Max, and convert the materials for you. You don't have to worry about that. Okay? But the best case scenario, if you want to use SKP file, is if you're doing architectural visualization. Obviously, this is what I'm doing right now, and maybe possibly you guys are doing as well. You want speed over perfection, and you plan to optimize the file, SKP file, inside 3ds Max anyway. So for ArcGIS, this is often the most practical option for architectural visualization, the most practical option. Now, the overall aim is to export SketchUp to 3ds Max. Like I said again, SketchUp is more easier to model than 3ds Max, and we are only going to be using 3ds Max to edit the SketchUp file, not modeling all over again, to help us save time. Now, if you do, in my personal opinion, okay, is if you want architecture, if you're an architecture or interior designer or architectural visualization, stick with FBX file. Okay, this is what I've experienced. Stick with FBX file to give you the most high realistic realistic results. Okay, before you actually import edit materials. If you want to use for games asset and pages or props, I won't say pages but props, use OBJ, and if you use all pipeline, then use 3ds. I hope that this makes sense, but obviously this is what some people ask me, and I hope that I clarified this video for you. If you do have any question, I will leave an Instagram link down below in the description, so that you can ask me any question you want. If you do want some coaching with me, one-to-one, I'm looking for 5 people anyway, so we can go to 0 to hero render. I will leave a booking link down below. If not, that's okay. You can stick around in this channel to learn more about visualization and stuff. I hope that this makes sense. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, so it will help me produce more videos for you guys. It will boost the algorithm to reach more people like you, and to get more people into visualization. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you on the next one.